Mozart is thought to have composed this piece in the early 1780s when he was in his mid-20s. It is based on a French song titled Vous, dirai-je, maman, meaning I will tell you, mom. We know this tune as Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and its author is unknown. Mozart wrote many variations for the piano, and during that time period, it was common for composers to base their variations on popular tunes. The term variations or theme and variations refers to a type of musical form in which a theme is presented and then restated with various modifications. The word theme here refers to a melody that functions as the basis for a composition. Let's look at the theme first. It is in C major, and the time signature indicates that the meter is 2/4, meaning that there are 2 beats in each measure and that the basic rhythmic value is a quarter note. We can see that the melody consists mostly of quarter notes. The theme comprises 3 phrases, and each phrase is 8 measures long. So the first phrase contains measures 1 through 8, the second phrase measures 9 through 16, and the third phrase measures 17 through 24. These phrases are organized into 2 parts. The first part includes the first phrase, and the second part includes the second and third phrases. This double bar with the repetition sign marks the division between the 2 parts. As indicated in the score, each part is repeated. Here is the first phrase. And here is the second phrase starting in measure 9. The third phrase that starts in measure 17 is identical with the first phrase. The structure of the theme is in 2-part form, also called binary form. More specifically, it is rounded binary form in that the melody of the first part returns in the second part. In this composition, the variations follow the phrase structure of the theme with 3 phrases organized in rounded binary form. The variations also follow the basic harmonic progression of the theme, although it is sometimes altered. Various musical elements are often changed for variety, including the melody, accompaniment, harmonic details, rhythm, texture, register, dynamics, and mood, among other things. The melody of the theme is not always recognizable in all variations because it is often paraphrased or embellished. Let me play a few variations where the tune is easily recognizable. For example, here are the first phrases from variation 2. Variation 4. Variation 5. Variation 6. While we can hear the melody of the theme clearly stated in the treble, we can also hear that these variations sound different from each other. If we quickly glance through the first few variations, we can see obvious differences between them. For example, in the first variation, the right hand contains 16th notes, which divide each quarter note into 4 notes. In the second variation, the 16th notes migrate to the left hand. In the third variation, the right hand has triplets, which divide each quarter note into 3 notes. And in the fourth variation, the left hand has the triplets. Now let's look at each variation. The first variation sounds energetic and lively, with the 16th notes in the right hand. Although the melody of the theme is not easily recognizable, a close look reveals that all notes of the theme are embedded in the basic flow of the 16th notes, embellished by adjacent notes. Let me point them out. We can also see that the 16th notes are following certain patterns. For example, the 8-note pattern in the first measure, which sounds like this, is restated in the second measure, starting at a higher pitch. Then there is another 8-note pattern in measure 4, which is restated 2 more times, starting at successively lower pitches. It sounds like this. On the other hand, the left-hand accompaniment is very close to that of the theme. Let me play the first phrase of this variation. In the second variation, the 16th notes are in the left hand, producing a vigorous effect. There is an 8-note pattern that embellishes the accompaniment in the first 4 measures. Then there is a 4-note pattern, a shorter version of the first one, which gets moved up and down to different pitches. The right hand, which plays the melody on top, contains some chords that sound dissonant. This type of dissonance is called a suspension. When chords change, it can happen that part of the first chord is held over and is played with the notes of the next chord. For example, in measure 2, the C major chord consists of the notes C and G in the right hand and the E in the left hand. In measure 3, it changes to the F major chord consisting of the notes C and A in the right hand and F in the left hand. But the G from the previous C major chord is carried over and is combined with the notes of the new chord, so they sound dissonant together like this. On the next beat, the G falls to the F, which is part of the new chord, the F major chord. So it does not sound dissonant any longer and the suspension is resolved. Let me play measures 2 and 3. In measure 4, the chord changes back to C major with the notes C and G, but the F from the previous F major chord is held over, and together with these 2 notes from the C major chord, it produces a suspension. This is resolved in the next beat as the F moves onto the E, completing the C major chord. Let me play measure 4. The same process continues, forming a chain of suspension and resolution, which creates an effect of tension and release. Let me play the first phrase. There are several other variations that contain examples of suspensions, as we will see. Starting in measure 17, the third phrase is not the same as the first phrase because the melody and harmony contain subtle changes, mainly introducing notes that do not belong to C major, such as the B flat, C sharp, F sharp, and A flat. This produces a different harmonic color. And the symbol in measure 17 indicates a trill, an ornament that involves alternating 2 adjacent notes, C and D in this case. It sounds like this without these 2 notes at the end. Here is the last phrase. In variation number 3, the right hand contains triplets, beginning with an ascending arpeggio, meaning a broken chord which spans 2 octaves. The rhythm of the triplets and the large span at the beginning give this variation a feeling of broadness. The melody of the theme is not clearly recognizable, but the notes of the theme are embedded in the triplets. Let me point them out. Let me play the first phrase. The second phrase extensively features a 6-note pattern. and the third phrase is identical with the first phrase. In variation number 4, the triplets have migrated to the left hand, and the right hand outlines the melody of the theme with suspension starting in measure 3, which is similar to variation number 2. Here is the first phrase. The first phrase is repeated in the third phrase. Unlike other variations, variation number 5 recalls the theme quite closely. It is much simpler with less embellishment, and the right-hand melody and the left-hand accompaniment stay very close to the way the theme was presented. Another difference in this variation is its intimate character, coming from the dialogue between the two hands. The right hand starts up the conversation in each phrase, and the left hand responds very closely. After the first note, the hands exchange 2 notes at a time. Then just 1/8 note, and then again 2 notes at the end of the phrase. This 2-note alternation continues in the second phrase. And then in measure 13, the right hand rhythm is embellished by 16th notes. In the third phrase, starting in measure 17, the left hand also takes up the 16th notes. Then the 16th notes in the right hand alternate with 8th notes in the left hand. In variation number 6, the 16th notes are back in the left hand again, and the accompaniment is embellished by a pattern of 2 alternating notes. It gradually ascends up an octave for 4 measures. And then it descends for the next 4 measures. This robust left-hand accompaniment creates a wonderful momentum and forward motion, sounding like a powerful engine. Over these rumbling sounds, the right-hand chords outline the melody of the theme with suspensions in measures 3 through 6. The detached chords also add to the energetic character. Here's the first phrase. In the second phrase, starting in measure 9, the hands switch their roles with the 16th notes accompaniment in the right hand. It immediately takes off, launching into a 2-octave rise and creating tremendous excitement. Below this right hand, the bass stays the melody of the theme, mostly in the left hand. Let me play the second phrase. The third phrase is the same as the first phrase.